Since it was launched in 1958, some believe NASA has encountered evidence of UFOs, and some UFO researchers say they're covering it up.
The notion that we're alone in the universe becomes absurd.
After Roswell, UFO sightings increased at an incredible rate. Are astronauts seeing things too? Official NASA videos capture possible anomalous objects on film.
They are objects that are out there, obviously not stars.
But NASA dismisses the sightings.
Why did they finalize a report on unidentified flying objects without finding out what those were?
Astronauts rarely come forward with their stories, but now details are coming out.
The policy was that we should stay quiet about such things.
Frankly, I don't see why they would fabricate this kind of material. It's almost a negative career-wise for them.
Has NASA discovered proof of UFOs?
I'm not entirely convinced that all the NASA footage is a bunch of dust particles.
And are they hiding what they found?
He said, well, we have to airbrush these out.
This is case number 58306, the NASA Files.
We have an unidentified flying object.
Since the beginning of the manned space programs in the early 1960s, UFO researchers have claimed that NASA missions are seeing UFOs in space. Cameras aboard NASA spacecraft photograph and videotape numerous large solid objects. According to some experts, these objects appear to accelerate, change direction, and even evade danger. NASA's explanations say that these are images of ice crystals or other normal space debris. But others are convinced that NASA is not disclosing the entire truth.
Don't you guys find it strange that NASA is not interested in UFOs at all?
NASA has a limited budget, and UFOs is just considered to be so unlikely that NASA put their resources towards other areas they feel are more likely to yield fruit.
They say they're not interested in UFOs, and yet they've got all this footage of strange things flying around. What exactly do we have to do to prove that there's a UFO cover-up at NASA?
You've got to find people who are credible witnesses inside NASA, and we've got to find the documents that say NASA knows there are UFOs. That's what we have to investigate. Ted wants a smoking gun? Let's go look for a smoking gun.
The team heads to Denver, Colorado to speak with a former NASA employee who has a unique insight into NASA's relationship with UFOs.
Hello, friend. Good to see you again. Come on, guys.
John Schuessler worked in the engineering department at NASA during the Gemini and Apollo programs from 1962 until his retirement in 1998. He was awarded the NASA Public Service Medal in 1997.
If anybody knows about a NASA cover-up from the inside, it's John Schuessler.
Were you inside the NASA machine?
I did have a top-secret clearance. I'm interested in solving this mystery. I'm trying to find out why somebody that's really responsible for our space program wouldn't be interested in something else up there. And all I got was stonewalled.
What's the NASA policy on UFOs?
I never saw a written policy. But the unwritten policy was, don't go there. Now that's a policy. It's non-subject is a policy, whether you want to say it or not. I found that NASA had a list of organizations outside of NASA. Those organizations were supposed to be able to give me the NASA policy. That's pretty strange. NASA should be speaking for themselves.
While NASA has no official policy on UFOs, other government and military agencies found the perfect way to dismiss any talk about the subject. The Condon Report. The report, commissioned by the Air Force in 1966, was led by physicist Edward Condon. After 2 years of studying UFO information gathered by both government and civilian groups, the report determined that all cases had rational explanations and that no further study of such phenomena was necessary. Quote, "The subject of UFOs has been widely misrepresented to the public by a small number of individuals. If we came across any evidence whatever that seemed to us to indicate a defense hazard, we would call it to the attention of the Air Force at once. We did not find any such evidence. We do not think at this time the federal government ought to set up a major new agency, as some have suggested, for the scientific study of UFOs."
Why did they finalize a report on a study of unidentified flying objects without finding out what those were? His executive summary said, forget it all, there's nothing to it.
So you're saying the Condon report was far from objective. There was Air Force influence on the report to make sure that it came up negative.
And the Air Force used that statement by Condon to shut down Project Blue Book and say for the next 40 years UFOs didn't exist.
With all government agencies, including NASA, no longer officially interested in studying the UFO phenomena, it became difficult for astronauts or anyone else working for NASA to speak about anomalous events they possibly witnessed.
If you look at the index to this, Chapter 6 of that is visual observations made by U.S. astronauts. The very first case I ever heard of was on Gemini 4. And on Gemini 4, you had an outstanding pair of astronauts up there.
This was James McDivitt and Ed White?
James McDivitt and Ed White. One of them said, hey, there's something up here.
June 1965. Ed White and James McDivitt are passing over Hawaii in the Gemini 4 spacecraft. They suddenly spot a metallic object with long arms protruding from it. McDivitt takes a series of pictures. Some hours later, McDivitt is on duty while his partner sleeps. He sees something strange over the Hawaiian Islands. A round object with a comet-like tail, and manages to take some movie footage. According to the official NASA transcript, McDivitt contacts NASA, quote, Gemini 4. Capcom responds, quote, how are you doing up there? McDivitt reports back, quote, fine. I just saw something else up here with me, but just as I was getting close enough to take a good picture, the sun got in the way and I lost it. The official mission audio reveals that the capsule communicator, or Capcom, acknowledges and shows interest in what McDivitt is seeing. McDivitt says, quote, stand by and let me see if I can find this thing again. Capcom responds back, quote, that's affirm. You still looking at the thing up there? McDivitt reports back, quote, no, I've lost it. It had big arms sticking out of it, it looked like. I only had it just for a minute. I got a couple of pictures with a movie camera and one with the Hasselblad, but I was in free drift before I could get the control back. I drifted and lost it. After the Gemini 4 mission concludes,